The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown. Markets for Monday, the 16th of May, 2016, are currently trading with gold at $1,272.20 an ounce, silver $17.12 an ounce, Texas crude $46.21 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 458 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1918. The Sedition Act is passed by U.S. Congress, making criticism of the government an imprisonable offense. An expansion of the Espionage Act of 1917, it banned speech and the expression of opinion that cast the government or the war effort in a negative light, of course excused by the perceived interference with the sale of government bonds. The end of free speech in the U.S. during wartime. Today in history. In recent news, a Texas openly gay church pastor, Jordan Brown, wrote in a statement today that Whole Foods, the company, did nothing wrong. This after he back in April had requested a cake from the all-natural organic grocery store with the phrase "Love wins" on it, but then claimed that he received a cake with an added homophobic slur. Brown said in the statement today, quote, "I want to apologize to Whole Foods and its team members for questioning the company's commitment to its values, and especially the baker associate who I understand was put in a terrible position because of my actions. I apologize to the LGBT community for diverting attention from real issues. I also want to apologize to my partner, my family, my church family, and my attorney." Whole Foods filed a countersuit against Brown and hasn't stated whether it would drop the action now that Brown has dropped his frivolous lawsuit. The University of Miami has detected a radioactive isotope produced by nuclear reactors in Biscayne Bay, spiking at 200 times higher than normal level at the Turkey Point nuclear power plant located just south of Miami, confirming suspicion that Turkey Point's aging canals are leaking into the nearby national park. South Miami Mayor Philip Stoddard, who is also a biological science professor at the Florida International University, told the Miami New Times, quote, "You would have to work hard to find a worse place to put a nuclear plant right between two national parks and subject to hurricanes and storm surge." Laura Reynolds, an environmental consultant who worked with the Tropical Audubon Society and the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, which intends to file a lawsuit, stated that, quote, "We know now exactly where the pollution is coming from, and we have a tracer that shows it is in the national park. We are worried about the marine life there and the future of the Biscayne Bay." This leak comes only several months after New York Governor Andrew Cuomo acknowledged that the state's Indian Point nuclear facility was leaking tritium into the local groundwater. The Indian Point nuclear power plant is located on the Hudson River, approximately 25 miles north of New York City, and serves the electrical needs of an estimated 2 million people. This is Rick Brody with your lowdown for May 16th, 2016.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I have a joke for you.
Okay.
The government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently.
Thought you'd see it coming. The moment you comes with the fool.
Bitcoin is immune from attack or almost completely. With Bitcoin, you actually gain far more from using the computing power to generate Bitcoins.
There's a system approaching perfection. It's in time for it to disappear. There's a system approaching perfection. It's in time for it to disappear.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast if it means I'm able to further limit reckless government spending. I mean, I have so many ideas. Some are simple, like take down traffic lights and eliminate the post office. The bigger ones will be tougher, like bring all of this crumbling to the ground.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Crypto Show, a show about disruptive technology, currency, and liberty, with a pinch of stick in it to the man. As always, we come to you live from the real heart of the resistance in Austin, Texas, deep beneath the Chase Bank, with a stack of Bitcoin miners at our back, undermining the bank and the man. We bring to you the latest info from those hacking away at the digital revolution and having some fun while we do it.
They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding.
Woo! You just like anything that sounds remotely rap or hip hop because you feel like it validates your coolness. It makes you seem younger and more hip. Isn't that right, Danny?
Maybe.
You also like sticking it to the man.
Definitely. If we could talk the man into, well, let's not talk about that.
Let's
right
not.
now.
Yeah, that's for another show. That's for the show past midnight. The Crypto Show late night, coming to you in the near future. Not really. Well, this is the Crypto Show regular. We are coming to you live on this lovely Wednesday, May 18th, 2016. And of course, we always come to you through the wonderful, I I don't know, patronage. It's not really patronage, but through Logos Radio Network. I couldn't think of a word. LogosRadioNetwork.com. You can check out all the other wonderful programming on this network. There's some really great stuff for alternative-minded people, and you can always go and donate. They accept Bitcoin, gold and silver, and even Federal Reserve notes. And don't forget our sponsors, Brave New Books. You can go to bravenewbookstore.com. Purchase several of the items that are available in store in case you don't have time to come downtown to visit the store in person. And you can also check out the events page. You can also go to thebitcoinbookstore.com, the only place on the internet that I know of that has over 50 titles all about Bitcoin for purchase.
Just the titles. There's no pages or content in the books.
No, but man,
it's just the titles.
It's the nicest looking titles you ever saw. Like some really cool fonts, and the
Helvetica and everything.
Helvetica Bitcoin. Yeah, it's some great stuff. But you'll have to go elsewhere for the actual books. No, you can get the books too with the titles. And don't forget Hill Country Home Improvements, the only roofer in Central Texas, perhaps the world, that not only accepts but prefers Bitcoin. All right, well, I got all that out of the way. So let's get to our first guest. We only have one guest this evening, but in the second hour, we're probably going to open the phones and continue discussing the driving out, quote unquote, no pun intended, of Uber and Lyft from Austin, thanks to the Austin City Council and the absolutely ridiculously bonkers voters of Austin, at least those who voted in that election, because there was absolutely no reason to vote against Prop 1, and the whole issue of safety was a non-issue. Uber and Lyft were demonstrably safer than the cab companies. And so we're going to talk to people, hopefully, from...
Is it true? I heard that the voters of Austin are on crack. Is that the problem?
Crack cocaine, yes. That's part of the problem, indeed. The other part of the problem is they're also on LSD. No, but we'll talk hopefully with some former Uber and Lyft drivers about what's going on, not just in the aftermath of the leaving of Uber and Lyft, but in the what has come to fill in their places, including what was it called? Arcade City, Austin. Thank you.
And if you are a driver or a rider, and you're wondering, how can I get Bitcoin so I could pay my driver or, whatever, we're fixing to talk to Jonathan from Bitwage, and he can tell us how to receive a certain amount of Bitcoin or whatever of your paycheck from Bitwage.
And last couple things before we get to him. There are plenty of Bitcoin enthusiasts in Austin who will patronize you for your services simply because you take Bitcoin, or certainly give you preference. So it's a huge advantage, and Bitcoin is the wave of the future, financially and technologically otherwise. So check it out if you are new to the Crypto Show, and maybe you're one of those drivers. And then also feel free to call in the second hour, 512-646-1984. Can't believe I still remember the call-in number because we haven't had callers in forever.
512-1984. How are you going to forget
1984? You'd be surprised. With me. So feel free to call in and discuss Bitcoin and ride sharing with us in the second hour. All right, well, let's get to our guest finally. As Danny mentioned, his name is Jonathan Chester. He's part of the team over at Bitwage. He is the president. And you can go to bitwage.com and check out their snazzy website. And Jonathan, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Jonathan, thank you for being on the Crypto Show. Well, Jonathan, we're new to Bitwage, and so are our listeners, so I definitely am interested to find out just exactly what it is. But before we dive directly into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of how you got into crypto.
Sure. So I used to work at Oracle. I was doing sales actually over there, and leading the open source sales division for Iowa and Kansas, open source support sales division, I should say. And so I was not feeling that intellectually stimulated, being one of 120,000 cogs in Larry Ellison's machine over there. And I decided to start just digging into new trends and technologies that were out there. And I watched a TED Talk on Bitcoin, and I was fascinated by it. Socioeconomic benefits of helping the unbanked and the efficiency of being faster and cheaper than banks. So I decided to.
Do you remember who gave that TED Talk? Sorry to interrupt.
It's the only one that is actually on the TED website. A lot of people don't know this, but there's like two types of TEDs. There's like the official TEDs, and then there's like the TEDs brought on by like smaller organizations.
The TEDx, right?
Yeah, the TEDx, right. So this is the one that is not TEDx. So you can go on the TED website to find that out. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't someone who is classically in sort of the Bitcoin blockchain space.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like, was it, Andreas Antonopoulos or somebody, but I feel like I should know it, but if it's not.
Been, Susan Tarkowski's got one too. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I'll look it up. Anyway, that's good to know. I'm glad you brought that up for those who might be interested, who are new to Bitcoin, maybe for those who aren't. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so I was fascinated, and I decided to do one of those deep dives. I think that's how everyone got in. They heard about it, and well, I heard about it before that, but back then I thought, it was just sort of crazy drug money. I'm not that interested in it. But once I saw this video, I became interested, and I basically delved deep for about a month, learning everything I could about this technology. Came out this like obsessed Bitcoin guy, right? So going to work, and I'm telling everyone, "Oh, guys, you gotta get into this Bitcoin thing." And this is right close to the end of 2013, like as the price is like starting to go up to its like top price of $1,000, right? And so I almost feel like I'm telling people, "I told you so. You should have gotten into this." Of course, I convinced some people to buy Bitcoin at around $1,000. Yeah, luckily we're still friends. Was able to sort of survive that one. But essentially, while I sort of became this sort of crazy Bitcoin guy, there was another crazy Bitcoin guy at Oracle, and he was working on the tech side of things. And we had some mutual friends connect us together and say, "You two knuckleheads got to do something." So we got together. We started looking. Okay, what's going on in the world of Bitcoin? What isn't going on? And what we sort of felt at the time, and we still do, although we don't think it's going to happen as fast, is that Bitcoin as a currency is going to be used everywhere. And so if that is the case, that people are going to end up getting paid in Bitcoin, but there were no systems for doing that. And so we wanted to be the first ones out there. And we built the system back in July. And the one thing that we kind of realized very early on is that even if people wanted to receive their wages in Bitcoin, a lot of employers were not so interested, right? You try to get like a Facebook, just pay all their employees in Bitcoin. You're going to go through, a lot of objections. And then maybe in like a year or two, they'll onboard you. And so that was not a very, very good business model. And so we decided to flip it on its head. And so then we basically enabled anyone to receive their wages in Bitcoin without requiring their employers to have to sign up. And once we did that, we actually ended up getting employees all over the U.S. working for large companies like Google, like Facebook, even like the U.S. Navy, right? Signing up and starting to get their wages in Bitcoin. And then interestingly, people from around the world started doing this, right? We now have users in 90 different countries. And so while people in the US, they want to get their wages in Bitcoin because they see it as, a way to diversify their assets or have a steady stream of Bitcoin to speculate on without having to really do anything for it. These international people would get their entire wages, like 100% of their wages in Bitcoin. At the time, we thought, holy crap, who are these people that are doing this month over month? And what we found out that they were doing is that they were actually taking that money, converting it into local currency on the other end, and then paying out to their bank accounts or in cash. And they were doing that to avoid sort of all the pain of receiving their wages internationally through
the exchange rate. You're skipping out on the exchange rate.
Exactly. Well, you're not skipping out on it. You're getting a better one because you're reducing intermediaries in that transaction, and you're changing who the market makers are.
Right, exactly. Just like we're coming to break. Just like any kind of international or even national money transfer is expensive when it's not in Bitcoin, in part because of the expensive infrastructure and intermediaries. Good point. We'll talk with Jonathan Chester on the other side of the break. BitWages, stay tuned.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
This is what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot.
Well, why would you call the cops?
Exactly.
Because you don't like your dog anymore?
Or maybe you don't like your own life or your daughter's life. And that's why you call the cops. No, welcome back to the Crypto Show. That is, of course, Rob Hustle at robhustle.com. This is what happens when you call the cops. And, of course, we always like to plug his sequel, Good Cops. It's ironic. The music video for which is still under production. He did do a crowdfunding, I think, was it Indiegogo? Yeah. Or Kickstarter, I can't remember which. But you go to robhustle.com to see how successful that was and check out the song. And hopefully we'll have a music video in the near future. And hopefully we'll have Rob Hustle on again. He's a great artist, very talented singer-songwriter, and a guy with a message. And we always appreciate that. Well, we're talking with Jonathan Chester, president of Bitwage. Go to bitwage.com. And he was giving us the story of how he got involved in crypto, the crypto space in general, and then how he got involved in helping to create Bitwage and why. And we'll get a little deeper into that in just a moment.
Yeah, we were talking about the exchange rate as we were going out, and we've experienced it personally. Because when we went to Mexico, 2 years ago, I think it was in February, the exchange rate was 15, and the hotel was giving everybody 12.5. But I was going through Bitso, or actually it was Unisend at the time, with Jose, and I was getting 15 by cashing out through Bitcoin. So I'm getting 2.5 extra pesos for using Bitcoin.
Right, a good 10% or so. And that's just one example, maybe a little less obvious, but still very important example of how Bitcoin can reduce transaction costs, especially with international money transfers or exchanges. Because again, you try to there's always huge transaction costs. Well, maybe not huge, but often.
And consider going through the airport carrying a wad of cash.
Yeah.
Are you
and
going to declare that?
Well, and that's the thing that, they make you declare it, even if you have less than, say, the 10 grand that they, I think, make you, or that you can have without declaring. They're still going to give you a second look, probably patch it down. They might try to steal it. Whereas with Bitcoin, the TSA guys, a lot of thieves, et cetera, they probably don't even know Bitcoin exists, let alone, how to access it on your computer or your, hardware device like a Trezor.
We are talking TSA, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So
those guys couldn't find their butt with both hands.
I agree with that. Found my butt with both hands.
No, they did.
But about switching gears. But that's again the beauty of Bitcoin is whatever happens with the eventual fork and the what do you call it, the blockchain or
halving.
Well, not even just the halving, but the block size limit. Ultimately, it's still going to be very suitable for money transfers across the world because it's so cheap and so easy and so relatively private, and circumvents all of this, all the intermediaries that can result in higher transaction costs, privacy invasion, and potential theft. So anyway, but one last thing I wanted to mention is that getting back to Bitwage and what it does, it's a really good point that a lot of people do want to get paid in Bitcoin because they see it as a hedge for their income, as a hedge for their long-term savings, and then they're just enthusiastic about Bitcoin and want to promote adoption. And I think that aspect of adoption is often appreciated. Most people seem to focus a lot on merchant adoption, and while that's important too, I think getting paid in Bitcoin obviously is potentially an even bigger source for getting wider adoption, because obviously if you get paid in Bitcoin, that facilitates merchant adoption because those income earners who want to consume already have Bitcoin. And it's kind of cool that you don't even need to get the employer involved, and that's already kind of the case with direct deposit in a way, because you have the bank being the intermediary there already for the employer. But anyway, let's get back. Jonathan Chester, president of Bitwage. So we've been talking about this. About Bitwage and how it works, but kind of just a bit generically or vaguely, I guess tell us a little more specifically what all is involved and how it works.
Sure. Yeah. So essentially, what happens is you sign up, and typically it would be the worker or the employee or a freelancer that signs up. Once they sign up, they're going to sign up for I guess what we call our invoicing service or payroll individual, and after sort of a short vetting process, we then provide you with bank account details, which you can provide to your employer. So that's either in the United States, U.S. domestic bank account details, or European details with a bank that is within the single euro payments area. And you can then provide that to your employer in the same way that actually you provide a bank account for direct deposit, right? An employer doesn't know if they're paying to Bank of America or Wells Fargo or what have you. And so we sort of almost act as like an accounts receivable agent the funds come in. We have a name matching engine that matches the funds to an account on our system. And then next day, we essentially convert all the funds with a partner into Bitcoins, and then we distribute based off of your preferences. And your preference, we don't hold any Bitcoins on our system. We're not trying to hold any funds on our system at all. Essentially, you would put in a wallet, right? You can either use like a Coinbase wallet or a hardware wallet or whatever wallet you want to use. We also have an easy integration with Airbits that makes it pretty simple to sync up with them. But you choose your wallet, the
preferred wallet of the Crypto Show.
Amen.
Nice, very cool. Yeah. Do you know the Airbits guys?
Paul Puey has been on the show just like a dozen times.
Okay, we actually used to work next to them not too long ago. So
oh, that's cool. No, they're great. All the guys over there are awesome. We definitely are big fans of Airbit. So
yeah. So when you're choosing your output method, right? You choose either Bitcoin, and there's two other choices. One is sort of the bank to bank, and that's done with like international workers. We actually can convert the funds into local currency from Bitcoin to local currency on the other end for people, and then deposit into their bank accounts. Doing that a lot in the Philippines and Brazil, for instance. And then we have like our cloud savings and spending solution. We've partnered with Uphold to enable people to hold their funds in one of 30 different currencies. And then we partnered with Zappo for a Bitcoin debit card, which then you can use those funds to pay anywhere that accepts Visa. Yeah.
Awesome. And so actually, for those who don't know, explain what Uphold and Zappo are.
Okay, so these are both companies that are within the digital currency space. Uphold, they are a company where you send Bitcoins into and out of them, but then when the funds are in there, they essentially hedge them to one of 30 different currencies, right? You got euros, you've got dollars, you've got Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, even gold or silver. If you want to get paid in gold or silver, you can actually have that happen through our system, actually.
Oh, wow.
Well. Yeah, not just Bitcoin.
Now, and when you're paid through gold and silver, just out of curiosity, it's not actual physical delivery. It's it's more
like an ETF of gold and silver.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's more like that than actual like gold or silver bars delivered to your door.
Right.
All of that's cool.
That's still pretty cool, though. No, sorry, go on.
Yeah. And then Zappo, they're a really large company as well. To run in the Bitcoin space. They're like just traditionally like a Bitcoin wallet and payment processor, and they've got a lot of Bitcoin services that they do. And they're run by a guy named Wences Cesar, who I think he had like a $750 million exit of a company when he was 25 years old.
He must have diversified out of lighters. Yeah, that was a good move.
Out of lighters? What?
Sorry, Zappo is a bad joke. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Should have caught that one.
No, you should have. It was a bad joke. Anyway, go on.
And then Uphold is run by it used to be run by the guy who created CNET and co-founded Salesforce, but then they switched roles with the ex-CIO of Nike. So both really strong, good teams that we're working together with over there.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Well, we're coming to break with Jonathan Chester of Bitwage, bitwage.com. Sounds like they've teamed up with some reputable and strong other companies to fulfill their services. So we'll be right back to talk about more on the other side. So stay tuned, guys.
Oh, did you catch that yawn? Researchers have found that when someone yawns, about half the people nearby will yawn too. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back in just a moment with the latest scientific explanation for contagious yawning.
Your search engine is watching you, recording all your searches and creating a massive database of your personal information. That's creepy. But it doesn't have to be that way. Startpage.com is the world's most private search engine. Startpage doesn't store your IP address, make a record of your searches, or use tracking cookies. And they're third-party certified. If you don't like Big Brother spying on you, start over with Startpage. Great search results and total privacy. Startpage.com, the world's most private search engine.
There are lots of theories about why we yawn. Some say it's caused by boredom or lack of sleep. Others blame it on the need for more oxygen. Whatever the cause, it's clear that most people react to yawns by yawning themselves. Researchers say the so-called contagious yawning is a way to synchronize with those around us biologically and socially. Scientists have found that contagious yawning is learned behavior. It starts around age 4 in children with normal development. Interestingly, children who have difficulty picking up social cues, like those with autism, aren't as susceptible to catching yawns. They yawn contagiously only half as often, and those who are severely autistic don't respond to yawns at all. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
Live Free Speech Radio, LogosRadioNetwork.com. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What you gonna do when they show up in black suits on your street and I'm in boots?
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Show here on this lovely Wednesday, May 18th, 2016. Here on Logos Radio Network, brought to you as always by Brave New Books, my favorite bookstore, celebrating basically its 10th year. Pretty long time for just about any business, really.
Aside from the local cookbook store.
Yes, the local cookbook. What? What are you talking
You eat
about?
a lot. You eat a lot.
Oh, shut up. Oh, I get it. Thanks. But we're, check out Brave New Books, 1904 Guadalupe Street, the heart of alternative thinking amidst the heart of the University of Texas, where orthodox, dogmatic thinking reigns. And don't forget Hill Country Home Improvements for all your roofing needs. And we're talking
and don't judge us for being directly beneath the Chase Bank, because we've offset that with Bitcoin miners all along our back wall.
That's right. And we have pictures on the website to prove it. We're speaking with Jonathan Chester, the president of Bitwage, bitwage.com. And Jonathan, are you still there?
Yeah, still around.
Okay, cool. No, I heard sometimes in the background it sounds like the call dropped, and it's just my imagination. But we've been talking about Bitwage, and Jonathan, go ahead real quick. I do have several specific questions for you about the process you already described. But say again real quick. I always like to have people repeat the process of their technology or service. Run us through it real quick again, how Bitwage works, and then we'll move on to other relevant questions.
Yeah, sure. So the way Bitwage works, for those that didn't hear, just tuning in, we users sign up to our platform. Usually, the worker or employee, contractor, freelancer, they sign up, and we provide them with a bank account, which then they can provide to their employers, either domestically in the U.S. or in the Euro payments area. And so because of that, their employers don't even have to sign up to our system. So we get people getting paid through Google and Facebook, even like the U.S. Navy.
Direct deposit.
Yeah, it's like, think of it like direct deposit. Exactly. Your employer doesn't know that you're getting paid into Bank of America, into Wells Fargo, or into Bitwage. One of the cool things I didn't mention before was that you can actually split up your payments, right? You don't have to get 100% of your wages in Bitcoin. You can do 5% Bitcoin, 50% Bitcoin. Some people do get 100% in Bitcoin. You can also split into gold and silver. Or even get your funds abroad. We've got workers in 90 different countries that are getting paid through us.
Wow, 90 different countries. Do you have any stats also on how many workers you have currently?
Yes, we've got over 4,000 users on our system.
That's pretty good. Wow, that's really impressive, actually.
Yeah, so
in 90 different countries.
Yes, I mean they're very concentrated in like U.S. and Europe and in Philippines and Brazil and a couple other countries, but
that's to be expected, of course.
Yeah.
Venezuela would be a good one. I don't know.
I know, right?
All the people in Russia. No, not really.
Yeah. Okay. So you provide a bank account for their employer to direct deposit to, and then from that bank account, how do they get Bitcoin through your service?
So the way that they get Bitcoin, right? I mean, people are going to essentially put in whatever wallet that they have that you would like to get paid into, right? We're not holding any of the funds, and so it ends up being like a next day process, essentially funds come in on the day of your payroll. You wait one more day, and then boom, Bitcoins just magically appear into your wallet.
That's awesome. So just a day turnover extra to get the Bitcoin, to get paid directly in Bitcoin,
which is much faster than other services, right? So normally, like your
Coinbase, faster than Coinbase,
right? Yeah, it takes 4 days or longer for the funds to get in. We're just a next day turnaround, which is pretty fast, and we're actually working on turning it into a same day, but we probably charge a fee for that.
And that brings me to another question. What is the cost of the service in general?
Yeah, so we don't have any fees right now. But
awesome.
Yeah, so right now, I guess what I would do is just check out our exchange rate. Right, you go. It's transparently up there. We have like a historical ticker also, which shows not just the U.S. exchange rate, but like all the other currencies that we pay into, and you can sort of get an idea there as to what you'll end up getting at the end of the end of your pay period.
Awesome. And you mentioned a vetting process for those who apply. Can you get into that a little bit more?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't just let everyone or anyone come onto the system, right? Because of money laundering and terrorist financing. No one wants funds to get in the hands of ISIS, right? That's just like no one wants that.
Doesn't the CIA have plenty of money though?
The CIA, right? Okay.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I mean, you come in and you provide your date of birth, your address, and then like a picture of your photo ID and proof of address. And once that's all set up, then you're good to go. So it's not too harsh. But we want to make sure that no one too evil out there is trying to take advantage of Bitcoin for bad reasons.
No, and fair enough.
So Chris's male prostitute business will not be accepted. Or what?
Well, it is still illegal in most countries, unfortunately. No, but I mean that's reasonable. I mean, obviously, you want to deal with reputable, or I should say, just above board individuals. And then
so no government employees.
Basically,
you guys are out.
Well, and that's the thing too. In the current political environment, that totally makes sense. And your requirements are pretty typical of the Bitcoin sphere anyway. Whether it's an exchange like Coinbase or kind of related services. So that's pretty reasonable. Well, and let me see. You said you had a name matching system. How does that work? And I mean, is that a pretty secure thing as far as that goes?
Secure? I mean, so our security policy was made with the help of our advisor, who was the past CTO of security for Sun Microsystems. And
pretty good credentials there.
Yeah, exactly. And we even had the security policy, go through a vetting process through an insurer who has insured us for $2 million of error and omission and cyber liability.
Would that be BitGo?
No. It's like it's not BitGo. It's like an actual like insurance company. I've been told I'm not allowed to say the name of them.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately. But they are, one of the top insurance companies. You would know the name anywhere in the country. So yeah, it's extremely secure. And the way that it works is when the funds come in, there's a description on the transaction, and based off of the information that comes in on that description, we're able to connect that with information that you provided to us on the platform. And sometimes there are certain scenarios when the information that's provided is not as strong, which is not when you're getting paid direct deposit, but like when someone's paying you with a wire. And we have slightly different ways of matching the name based off of user IDs and being able to look at our backend manually. So sometimes when the transaction just doesn't come in as nice as we want, someone will actually manually do the matching instead of having the system sync it up automatically.
Okay, yeah, that was a kind of a lead into a general question about security, but I was kind of curious what you meant by the name matching system, and but the name matching system is pretty reliable, is what you're saying under most circumstances, as far as in
the entire time that we've run the service, we've only had 2 issues that have happened with it, and both of them happened like a year ago, and we ended up overpaying basically 2 different people, like $150.
Well, I'm sure they weren't too upset about that. And we're coming to break. A year is like a century in the Bitcoin space, so that is a pretty good indication of how well they run things. We'll be right back with Bitwage on the other side of the break.
Chip in my pages. Stay out of our lives. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sit down with Big Brother. Shame on that Big Brother trying to track and trace me, and all you attack the animals and attack everything on earth. I sit down with Big Brother.
Great job over there, Rick.
Well, thanks to our new producer, who may or may not be called Rick, for his help this evening. I kept expecting Rick Rohde, who has the evening off. And we came back.
And there's some other Rick here. And, you know, it's because we're probably not smart enough to call the new guy by his own name. So, you know.
I know my own name, Danny's name, and Rick, and that's it. So thankfully he was a Rick too. But of course, we came back to the lovely tunes of Jimmy Vaughn, blues legend, brother of other blues legends, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Huge Ron Paul supporter.
Huge Ron Paul supporter, huge fan of the bookstore. Probably huge fan of the Crypto Show. I don't doubt it.
He said he would come on, but he never did.
Is that for real?
Yes.
I'm sure he's busy. At least he said he'd come on. That's better than a lot of people. We'll coax him into it one day. But we are talking with
there may be kidnapping involved.
Don't let them know in advance. You're going to give away your plans. We're talking with Jonathan Chester, the president of Bitwage. Check out bitwage.com. If you're just tuning in, it's basically a way in which you can get paid in Bitcoin for your wages. They set up a bank account for your employer to direct deposit to, and from there you're paid directly into whatever wallet you choose, probably preferably an Airbit's wallet, and you get paid in Bitcoin. And like I said before, I think that's a very crucial part of getting paid, or I'm sorry, of promoting Bitcoin adoption, because
especially if you're here in Austin, because lately apparently there's a problem with all the ATMs in town are down right now, and people have been wandering in off the street trying to find Bitcoin.
Man, and I wish.
And I've been here a few times, and it's like all these strange people show up wanting Bitcoin, and I just happen to be here having Bitcoin, and now I'm out of Bitcoin.
What, bro?
At least in that wallet.
I wish we need to get our Bitcoin ATM up and working. I don't know. We'll talk to John about that. But yeah, I mean, it's the other side of the coin. There's merchant adoption, and then obviously people can just buy Bitcoin or mine Bitcoin or whatever, but getting paid in Bitcoin directly, especially in big chunks like your monthly salary, I think is a great idea. And it's obviously a great way to encourage spending in Bitcoin. And again, that's the other side of the coin. Just like with a credit card adoption and the reduction of cash in the economy, physical cash, were facilitated by things like direct deposit. Same kind of principle. So I think Bitwage is a really neat idea. And they already have 4,000 users in 90 countries. That's pretty impressive for a relatively recent, Bitcoin company, startup. And as still relatively small as the Bitcoin world is, that's nothing to shake a stick at. And we're talking again with Jonathan Chester, president of Bitwage. And I also want to mention that there is an affiliate program. And Jonathan, tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, sure. So the way it works, anyone who signs up actually can be part of the affiliate or referral program, which is what we kind of call it. You sign up, you provide a link to whoever you want to sign up, or whoever's interested in signing up. And if they do it and they actually do a payroll, then we pay out $5 to you and the person who did a payroll. So it's a nice little boost right there. And then, if you dig deeper into the affiliate program, we also have more advanced ones for people who are referring a lot of people that can be based off of percentage of volume that comes in. But that's sort of if you are doing a lot of referrals.
Well, maybe the Crypto Show will be doing a lot of referrals. We'll see. We'll try to get that set up on our website and encourage people to check out Bitwage. Why not get paid in Bitcoin? If you really like Bitcoin and you're serious about it, get paid in it. Put your money where your mouth is.
And Bitwage,
people.
Yeah, Bitwage isn't paying in Hashcoin yet, so you might as well just use Bitcoin.
Exactly. But and you do say though that you also accommodate gold and silver. And were there any other crypto coins that people could get paid in as of yet for the service?
Not yet. But we're working together with Uphold to enable people to get paid in Ether. So that'll actually happen pretty soon.
Dogecoin, awesome. That's great.
I think Bitcoin too. That's a big one.
that's my favorite.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. I'm glad that you wasn't that funny. I'm glad that y'all are.
That's funny the way you said
working on expanding that. I think that's really promising. And speaking of expanding, from what a little birdie told me, that is you, y'all have recently launched on another continent.
Yes, exactly. So we just recently launched in Europe, which means that people can get paid from European employers in Bitcoin, right? So a lot of people from Germany and from Spain and Italy and sort of all across Europe are signing up for this right now. So you can get paid from your European employer. You could be European. Maybe you're in the US and you have European clients. You can also do that through our platform as well. Get paid in Bitcoin, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That's really awesome. And Europe's a big market. The European Union, it's as big a market as the United States. So congratulations on that. And considering that you just launched that and you now have already 4,000 users, I can see a big boost in your usership going forward because of that. So that's really exciting.
Yep.
Well, We've got a little over 5 minutes left. Now, I check out the blog at blog.bitwage.com, and you seem to write most of the articles. And I haven't had a chance to read any of them, but some pretty interesting titles of those articles. I'll probably ask you about a couple of them, but you did mention also that you like to talk or to write more generally about blockchain technology. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. So I do a lot of writing on blockchain technology. I'm really fascinated by public versus private versus permissioned blockchains, which is sort of the new line that enterprises like to use because they sort of feel like private is too evil of a word, and so they want it to be permissioned. Marketing ploys, I'm sure, but essentially I'm fascinated by this. Partly because I'm wondering, are they going to be able to achieve settlement with a private blockchain and try to replicate some of the value of Bitcoin? And I've come to the realization that no, they're not going to achieve that anytime soon. Although there are sort of other values that you can get out of private or permissioned blockchain, but it will never be the ability to send money instantly to anyone in the world nearly for free. It'll be more like applications of the fact that you could send a token that represents something and monitor and audit where that goes, which is essentially a way to automate back-end systems and reduce some of the workforces you need in operations, which is a lot less sexy, in my opinion, than the ability to essentially disrupt entire organizations within a financial institution.
But in a way, I mean, I know what you mean. It's not as sexy, but it is sexy in a way because it'll probably on its own right disrupt the workings of various corporations as certain things get automated that otherwise were handled previously by humans or, required more complicated and potentially faulty systems than are now possible with blockchain technology. You know what I mean? I think it's all sexy.
Yeah. I mean, it's still sexy, right? It's still cool. Like one of the issues when you're sending payments across borders through correspondent banks is that if for any reason there needs to be someone involved to look at a transaction, that person then has to put in that same set of numbers to move the money on to the next place. And if he puts it in wrong, the money can get lost. And that can create long delays from transaction that should have been 5 days, which, with Bitcoin is, way less than that, even if you convert to local currency. But what should have been 5 days to 2-3 weeks, right? So it just takes forever and no one has any idea where the money is. And so one thing that banks are looking at with private blockchains is, the ability to see where the funds are as it moves through the correspondent banks. So at the very least, when the money gets lost or sent to the wrong place, they can identify it fast. And get it to where it needs to go faster.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. But at the same time, right? So here's the interesting thing, right? Why will they never achieve like the settlement that's required? If you think about the scenario of let's take an easier example to think about. You got a pink slip for a car, right? And that represents the ownership of that car. But then you tokenize that pink slip onto a token, and I sell you that car. And I give you the token and I give you the pink slip. Great. Now we have a really easy, transparent way to see who owns the car. But if I give you the token, but I keep the pink slip, and then I go to the judge and say, my car got stolen, right? Then you go to the judge. He says he has the token, but I say I have the pink slip. Who's going to win? And the answer is that it's a legal question and it's a political question, right? And both of these things take a long time to change. And sure, you might be able to change it on a California level, which is where I'm from, or Texas level. You can change it maybe on a U.S. level. But imagine then sending the token to Germany or Japan or China. Right now you're talking about these global governments having to agree on building regulation together. That's going to take a really long time. Not impossible, but a long time. Especially when that token is no longer car, but currency. Right, currency that each government wants to control itself. So it's going to take a long time.
No, it absolutely is sticky questions, and it's a really good point. Do you want to maybe even stick around with us one more segment, for a few more questions about the blog? Do we have time, Danny, or do we have callers?
No, he was wanting to cut out.
Or you got to cut out at 9?
Yeah, I got to cut out. I actually stayed a little bit longer because I was having so much fun.
Well, I appreciate that. There were some cool other articles, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back, guys, to the second hour of the Crypto Show here on this lovely May 18th, 2016, a Wednesday. We are always brought to you by Hill Country Home Improvements, the only roofer in Central Texas, perhaps the world, that accepts and prefers Bitcoin, and Brave New Books, which is the center in Austin of the libertarian, alternative, agorist, anarchist, alternative thinking, Bitcoin world, and if not the center of the entire world. And they carry so many cool titles on Bitcoin, on alternative health, on alternative history, alternative politics, alternative economics, the Austrian school, on conspiracy. I just said it.
Free
markets.
Like,
it's really the coolest place ever. And they have events. They have speakers who talk about all that stuff. Some very
they have
famous
a stereo
speakers.
system to go with those speakers.
They also, it turns out,
wrong kind of speakers.
That's good. That's good. They also have a stereo system that goes with those speakers, and it's the coolest place in town. For 10 years now, some of the biggest names in the alternative space have been here. The G. Edward Griffin, Alex Jones, all sorts of people whose names I can't think of off the top of my moment. Jimmy Vaughn performed. Not only has been a customer here many times, but he performed for Harlan Dietrich's birthday. Harlan is the founder not only of Brave New Books, but of the Crypto Show, and eventually we'll coax him to come back on as an eventual guest here and there. But he's got his own stuff going on, and I think he needs a break from all the hard work he put in on the show and the store and everything else. Of course, the store is now in the hands of John Bush and Catherine Bleich, and they're doing a great job. And we definitely hope you can support the store, because supporting the store is supporting not just us here at the store, it's supporting community. It's supporting the ideas that the store is about, and it's keeping an event center going for all the cool speakers and other events that I talked about. Don't forget Logos Radio Network, of course, which brings all this excellent programming to you, and you can support them at logosradionetwork.com. Well, in the first half, of course, we had our guest, Jonathan Chester. He is the president of bitwage.com, or Bitwage, and you can go to their website, bitwage.com. Check it out. It's a pretty snazzy website. It's a pretty snazzy service. And again, if you're just tuning in or if you need a recap, essentially Bitwage allows you to get your wage, your income from your employer in Bitcoin. And the way they do that is you go through a small vetting process. They then set your employer up with a bank account that they can direct deposit to. And from that bank account, Bitwage gets you Bitcoin into whatever Bitcoin wallet you choose. They are now in over 90 countries. That's really impressive. I didn't even know there were 90 countries in the world.
There's 190.
Wow. That's almost half. Way to go, Bitwage.
Most of them have military bases. From what country?
Probably Iran. It's Iran.
Yeah.
No, it's the United States. That's right.
Oh, you can tell Iran. They're way too aggressive, and you know they want war. You know how I can tell?
Tell me.
They put their country right in the middle of all of our military bases.
That was good. I knew you were going with that, but that was good. I know. It's really true. I mean, I don't know how.
The nerve of those people.
Right? How did they know thousands of years ago that the United States would encircle their country with military bases? How bellicose and belligerent. How ridiculous. Yeah, and that's what's terrifying. I was talking to a friend. I'm going to get off topic for a second. A friend earlier today, actually. He's a really brilliant guy. He's got a PhD. I think it's either American literature, American history. Either way, I mean, he's a big, voracious reader of both American literature and American history, and just, world and literature and history more generally. But we were talking about the upcoming elections, and while I don't agree with everything that my friend believes in, he's frankly kind of basically a Marxist. We both see eye to eye quite a bit on the sort of elite corporatist power behind the scenes running this country and running the world, and agree on a lot of the problems and their causes. Maybe not solutions, but at least the causes and what those problems are. But he was talking about how terrifying it would be if Hillary Clinton got into power. He doesn't like any of them like Trump either, but he almost prefers Trump just because Hillary Clinton is like a guaranteed CFR corporate shill who will probably attempt to invade Iran. And of course,
I'm just afraid that she's going to make me wear a pantsuit
and shoulder pads too. No, I know, me too. I'm just afraid she's going to make me scream everything all the time because I'm Hillary. No, but he's really right, because the Clintons, I mean, if you look into their sort of track record, They are. He even called Clinton a right winger, and obviously he's pretty far left himself. But that wasn't simply by comparison to himself. He was commenting on the fact that the Clintons are huge corporatist shills, have gotten tons of money from various corporations, act like they're for the people, and act like they're traditionally left liberal. Not that that's a good thing. It isn't. Not that I agree with that, but they talk the talk, but they certainly don't walk the walk. And even at least with Bernie Sanders, I don't like the guy. I think he has terrible ideas, and I think if he were president, he would ruin the country. But not that they're not all going to ruin the country by degrees, but at least he appears.
Just go ahead and say it. It's not them that's going to ruin the country. It's their handlers.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Their
Danny.
owners will.
No, thank you.
They're not running anything.
That's exactly. I like that. They may be running for office, but they're not. They ain't running nothing.
No,
they ain't running nothing. That's a good point.
It's pretty easy to see those little loops on their shoulders and stuff where the strings go.
They look. I know they're
for the puppet masters.
They did look a little bit like marionettes when they would move. It was now it makes sense. They are just little puppets. Yeah, but not that they run things. And that's the thing is like people talk about elections in the manner of voting makes a difference and the voting system isn't rigged, and the people running for office, the politicians, are independent and solely after their own selfish greed, which they are, but that's only directed by the people above them, and that's only so far as it is congruous with the plans of the people above them. While I have no proof that Bernie Sanders, for instance, is a puppet, I'm pretty sure he is. There's just no way. But regardless, even if he wasn't, he would destroy the country because he's a socialist. Socialism doesn't work. Sorry if you're a left liberal and you think otherwise. History, economics, common sense, basic logic, and looking past the surface of things all prove beyond a shadow of a doubt socialism does not work. And one of the problems that this country faces is that it has had too much socialism along with corporatism that have caused a lot of the problems over the decades. But anyway, yeah, so he was calling her a far right winger, and in a way it's true. It's just like, take away the rhetoric. She's this fascistic, warmongering shill for the CFR and all of its financial interests. She famously called the CFR in New York the mothership. So that and how fitting considering these new comments by Clinton about UFO disclosures, which that's a whole other topic. But that's just another sort of method of control. They want to.
I thought they were like UAP or something.
UAP, I don't get it.
What is unidentified phenomenon or something?
Oh, is that a real thing?
Yeah, that's the new word for UFO.
Oh, the more PC word.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Unidentified aerial.
Yeah.
Phenomenon or something?
Yeah. UAP, something like that.
Hold on, I'm going to look this up. UAP. Danny, you're just making shit up. You're making stuff up. That's what I said the first time. That's what I said the first time. Sorry. But that's a whole other topic. You know who I want to have back on, speaking of which?
Who's that?
James Corbett. And the reason I think of that is because he has this great video called How to Fake an Alien Invasion about I know that sounds weird, but it's an hour-long video, and that guy's brilliant and super logical. And I have shown his videos to people who are very skeptical of the ideas that he talks about. And they see him and they're like, well, maybe or maybe not. I'm convinced. But maybe or maybe not. I agree with that guy. But man, I take him seriously. Like, he's an intellect and he's rational and he's not like some crazy histrionic personality like there are out there otherwise. But he talks about that sort of weird agenda funded by the Rockefellers, no less. Lawrence Rockefeller and the Disclosure Project, and the Clintons are on board. Bill Clinton made a similar comment on Jimmy Kimmel Live last year, and now I guess Hillary Clinton did the same on Jimmy Kimmel. Interestingly, the same venue about this whole UFO thing. But anyway, that's getting off track. I'm kind of rambling since we don't have a guest for the second hour, but we do have some stuff to talk about that I will talk about, and that's namely the city council and Uber and Lyft and ride sharing. So we've got a couple of minutes left till break, so I'll probably whip that out in the second segment here for the second hour. But yeah, right-winger Hillary Clinton, and that's why it's so tragic that you have all of these liberals who, admittedly, a lot of liberals are at least being kind of consistent by getting on board with Bernie. Of course, they're consistent as in consistently wrong, but at least they're kind of sticking to their guns about supporting somebody who appears to support their own values, but Hillary Clinton does not. I mean, she's just writing this, I'm a woman, I could potentially be the first woman president. bandwagon while she's pushing all of these globalist, New World Order, bizarre UFO, and corporatist agendas.
Well, I think Bernie's great. I mean, personally, because when these people get to the Democratic convention and they find out that it's a big sham and Bernie's going to get ripped off and it's all going to be given to Hillary. They'll get to see it in action. Any of the Bernie people that actually get to become a delegate will get there and get to see it in action. And there will be a big backlash like there was with Ron Paul. Ron Paul created an army of these Republicans that joined the Republican Party, and now they're all anarchists.
Yeah. You know what, Danny?
Not all of them, but some of them.
You might be right. I mean, you are right in large part, but maybe this will wake them up because you're right. When it happened to Ron Paul, the left certainly didn't care because that wasn't to their advantage. But now that it's clearly been happening to Bernie, hopefully it'll wake them up to the fact that the state and that the way this country is run is never going to be for them, so they should give up and become anarchists. We'll be right back on the Crypto Show. Stay tuned on the other side.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
Oh, for the longest time. Oh, for the longest. If you said that Bitcoin was my life, I would tell you. Show enough, show you right. What else can I do? I'm so inspired by you, and I'm just holding for the longest time. Once I do, my stocks and bonds were gone.
Hey, that was my ooh to do.
Your ooh to do.
Yeah, my ooh to do. All right. Well, welcome back, guys, to the Crypto Show here on this lovely May 18, 2016 Wednesday here on Logos Radio Network, brought to you as always by Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvements, and I almost forgot, Crypto Compare, with the Crypto Compare News Minute every Sunday at the top of each hour. Last Sunday, though, we spread it out through almost every segment because we're cool like that. And I just want to mention, just to get out of the way, don't forget our guest this evening, who I was hoping would stick around a little longer, although he was gracious enough to spend a whole hour with us. Jonathan Chester, the president of Bitwage, or at bitwage.com. They're a service that allows you to get your income from your employer in Bitcoin by setting up a bank account for your employer to direct deposit to, and then transfer Bitcoins to you into whatever wallet you prefer. They prefer Airbits, so do we. And they have over 4,000 users in 90 countries, and they have recently launched in Europe. So presumably that 90 countries didn't include any European country. So that's only set to expand. We wish them luck. They're a great service. Jonathan Chester was a very good guest, a smart guy, very articulate, and I regret that we didn't have a little more time with him so I could talk to him about the blog at bitwage.com, blog.bitwage.com. So he has some cool articles about, let me see, how Bitcoin helps to empower entrepreneurship for Afghani women, how to freelance, the ultimate guide, and dealing with fraud in the Bitcoin world. And it looks like it's I even left out a few articles on that one page. It looks like it's page 1 of 7, so it looks like he's written quite a bit. And I haven't even checked out the rest of the pages. But we were talking about the elections and Bernie Sanders and stuff. We're going to get into ride sharing. But I do want to mention real quick that I bash on Bernie Sanders, and I should be more balanced. I want to make it clear that I don't like both sides. I mean, it's the false dialectic, the false paradigm of the left and right, the Republicans and Democrats, the conservatives and liberals, that even if they weren't using this Hegelian dialectical principle and strategy to fool everybody and to progressively implement greater and greater state control.
The divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer.
Exactly.
It's exactly what it is.
If the Republican Party failed and went away today, where would the Democrat Party be without the Republican Party?
Without their enemies?
I mean, who are they going to fight? There would be no need for either one.
No, that's a really good point.
So one of them should just go ahead and die so we can get rid of both of them.
That's a great point, Danny. That really is, because it's like, well, in a sense, of course, the two parties are a duopoly. It's one party away from a monopoly party like they had in the Soviet Union, and you realize that that's still control, especially when you actually examine what happens in politics behind the scenes and not even behind the scenes. But you're right. If one of them went away, they'd have no one to fight against. So people would start to see through it, I think, because, I mean, they would still have the propaganda. They'd still have the faulty ideologies that they push, but they would have to start fighting either fringe groups that no one would care about anyway, or they would have to start fighting the truth, which they do fight the truth. Don't get me wrong.
They just don't want you to know it.
They just don't want you to know it. Exactly. But they also fight the other false end of the paradigm, the other falsehoods on the quote unquote opposite spectrum from the, say, Democratic Party, which is the Republican Party. And that's the thing. I've noticed this so much in life is it's more true of liberals, I would say, in this process, but it's still true of both sides. But I meet people who are brought up in, say, a conservative background, and they find some issue with it. And when they find that issue, they find a bunch of issues with it, and probably legitimately so, obviously, because the conservative paradigm is at least half wrong and faulty because it was constructed to be so. But they then assume that the opposite of conservative is liberal, and since they found so much wrong with conservative, they assume that the opposite of wrong is right. The opposite of wrong being liberal, therefore liberal is right. And never question liberalism once they springboard over there and go to the opposite extreme, when in reality, they're both wrong. And they both have elements of right, and that's part of how they sell it is, they do have elements of the truth, like, relative free markets on the conservative side, social tolerance on the liberal side, but real social tolerance, not political correctness, not social justice warrior nonsense, not elevating certain groups to sort of privileged, venerated status when the whole point was just giving them rights in the first place. So anyway, if one party didn't exist, the other party would soon cease to exist. But I also want to add, I don't like Trump either. I don't like the Republicans. I don't like Ted Cruz. I don't like any of them. They're all puppets. They all work for the same masters.
Don't be bashing my guy, though.
Who's that?
SpongeBob.
Why would I ever bash SpongeBob? Come on. SpongeBob 2016.
That's right.
Who's the vice president on that ticket?
Patrick.
Oh, that's of course. I wish I could do the SpongeBob voice. Can you do the SpongeBob voice?
No.
Why not?
No, but I did write in SpongeBob when in 2012 when I wrote in Ron Paul. I wrote in SpongeBob as his VP.
That is awesome. Yeah. And so I recommend you do that. If you're going to vote for SpongeBob. Otherwise, your vote does not count, and it's a waste. It's ridiculous.
For governor, I voted for some random jerk. I don't know which one, but that's literally what I wrote in.
So you basically voted for all of them at once.
Yeah,
is what it turned out to be. I think that kind of backfired on you. But I pick on Bernie, and in a way I shouldn't, because we might have some new listeners through.
What? I mean, he's kind of following along the same lines that Ron Paul did, and he's bringing in a lot of the young people, and they're going to find out when they get to the convention.
Yeah,
who's running what?
No, and you're absolutely right. I don't. Unlike Ron Paul, I don't agree with his views, but at least he seems sincere. He's an alternative to the mainstream Democratic Party, obviously the Republican Party as well. And he is at least talking about empowering the little guy in what seems to be a sincere way. I can't say that he's a witting puppet, a knowing puppet. I think he's a puppet one way or another because he still serves the agenda. And the agenda is take control, socialism, fascism, to one degree or another. So even though he thinks his brand of socialism will help the little guy, it won't. And even if they decided to implement it because it served their interests, you would not be better off. And I'm sorry, that's just economics. If you want to dispute the laws of economics, which are literally as steadfast as the laws of nature, go ahead. But that's the way it is. But anyway,
he's trying to tell me that free stuff doesn't exist.
There's no such thing as a free lunch, Tunstoffel or whatever it is. No, I mean that's the thing is it sounds. It sounds great, all of these promises that he makes, but again, they're just promises of a politician, no matter how sincere. They're promises of the utopian ideology of socialism.
Promises. Guantanamo. Still open, right?
Promises, no bailouts. Oops.
Yeah.
Promises. End the wars. Oops. Oh, am I talking about Obama? And see, that's the thing is like, they fell for it with Obama. How do you know that if Bernie weren't elected, how do you know that if he were elected that he wouldn't do the same thing that Obama did, which is make all these sweet promises, some of which were good even on like ending Guantanamo, ending the wars, some of which were good on an actuality basis, right? And then turn around and just promote the status quo. You don't know that. You're depending on a Führer, the Führer principle, to have somebody.
We have less than a minute. Let's go ahead and take this call, and we'll pick up with him on the other side.
Sounds great. Eric from Texas, are you there?
Eric, are you there?
Hey, Eric.
Hello, Eric. Eric, are you there?
Oh man, we got a caller, and well, hopefully we'll get him back. Eric, we're excited to talk to you because we're lonely, and we're just two older men sitting in a basement, staring at each other as we talk over the airwaves.
At least it's not our mother's basement.
Well, not until I leave the studio. We'll be right back. Hopefully Eric will stick with us. Can't wait to talk to him on the Crypto Show.
Warm cookies and milk, what a great combination. But cookies and the internet are a recipe for privacy invasion. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back to tell you why you should regularly delete cookies from your computer in just a moment.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This public service announcement is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Cookies are bits of data stored on your computer's hard drive when you visit a website. Some cookies are harmless, but many websites use so-called tracking cookies that can monitor your internet behavior and create a profile of you secretly. This is especially problematic when you're tracked at search engines like Google or Bing. Your search records can reveal a shocking amount of personal information, like your interests, your medical conditions, and more. You can configure your browser to automatically delete cookies or never accept them in the first place. There are also programs for deleting trickier tracking cookies called flash cookies. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, encouraging smart surfing and the use of more privacy-friendly websites like StartPage.com. More news and information at CatherineAlbrecht.com.
You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at LogosRadioNetwork.com.
I've been walking a tightrope between fact and fiction, been wrestling with demons in small bottle prisons, been talking to sinners who claim to be Christian, but shouting at leaders who claim to be listening, and the pendulum swings from the left to the right. Its momentum increases the need for the fight, like a moment of blindness and a lifetime of sight, and I am caught somewhere in the middle.
Welcome back, guys, to the second to last segment of the Crypto Show. We're on this lovely May 18th, 2016, a Wednesday on Logos Radio Network. Brought to you as always by Brave New Books, Hill Country Home Improvements, and Crypto Compare with the Crypto Compare News Minute every Sunday at the top of the hour. And we have a caller we're going to get to, but in the meantime, I'm going to switch gears since it's probably going to be relevant to the caller anyway. We were talking about politics and elections and stuff, and speaking of which, of course, there was the Prop 1 vote here in Austin last week about whether to keep Uber and Lyft ride-sharing going, and Prop 1 failed, which means Uber and Lyft left, and it was one of the biggest tragedies / travesties in recent Austin memory.
And miracle at the same time.
But a miracle at the same time. There's a silver lining because luckily in its place, some cool ride-sharing platforms like Arcade City Austin. You can check out their Facebook page, Arcade City Austin. Just search for that. They are coming out with an app as well. But for now, use the Facebook page. You can, if you need a ride or you're offering your services, go post there. They have over 12,000.
No, 17, almost. It's probably 18,000.
Are you serious?
It's 18,000 by now.
Wow. We reached 12,000 during last episode of the Crypto Show when we had on some of the former Uber and Lyft drivers who are now driving for Arcade City. But now 17,000. That's incredible. So check that out. It's a real community feel. It's created a lot.
No, it's 18,103.
That's insane. That's a lot of people. And 10,000 people lost their jobs at Uber and Lyft left.
So
this is
from just a few days. We talked about this just a few days ago.
Yeah.
On this show, it was 12,000 during this show. And it looks like it's probably reached 18,000 during the show.
It's reached 50% more since the last show. And it's nearly double the number of people who lost their jobs when Uber and Lyft left. That's really cool. And I want to add, by the way, real quick before we get to our guest, I mentioned last episode that Soviet means council. Well, I forgot. What it also meant is like a city council. Gorодskoy Soviet meant city council, and that was the communist councils that would be in cities throughout Russia. And so it literally is fitting that we call it the Austin Soviet Council because it is city council. Literally means
you mean
Soviet,
like from this thing. Safe ride home, but the Austin Soviet Council stole your Uber and Lyft.
They took our ride.
Don't let the Austin Soviet Council force you into those ugly yellow monopolistic cabs. Connect to a huge pool of former Uber and Lyft drivers via Facebook on the group Arcade City Austin Request a Ride. This is true free market agorism, the peer-to-peer economy without the middleman. That's Arcade City Austin Request a Ride on Facebook. What better way to show the Austin Soviet Council you don't appreciate their overreach?
Amen. And speaking of which, last thing too before we get to our guest, it's great announcement by Danny there. He did such an awesome job. If you absolutely have to, I understand if you use a cab or Get Me, but try not to. Try to use Arcade City Austin. It looks just as efficient and quick and probably cheaper and probably much more friendly using Arcade City Austin.
No, in many cases, much faster actually, because from what I'm hearing from people that are actually using Get Me is they're waiting an hour and then someone doesn't even show up.
Yeah.
And the majority of the time, people are responding on Arcade City within a minute. Or less, literally within seconds.
Well, we demonstrated on the last show. There was a post that was 6 minutes old, and already like 6 people had responded to it. So it's really quick. I mean, I used the taxi probably it was sometime back, not too long ago. They're so slow and they're so unfriendly and they're so unprofessional, and they usually don't even know how to get to you. They have to call and find you. So use Arcade City. If you have to use other services, I understand, but there probably is no reason because Arcade City has really filled in the gap for the loss of Uber and Lyft. And again, you get that friendly community feel, and they're not in compliance with. I mean, they're not. I don't want to put it that way. They're not colluding with the city. Get Me is colluding with the city. The taxi cab companies, obviously, as a city-enforced cartel, are colluding with the city, and that's why it was so nonsensical. You saw the signs: "Safety before corporate profits, man." Of course, as we demonstrated last episode, safety was not the issue. Uber and Lyft were demonstrably safer than taxis, and the corporate profits were benefited. The taxi company corporate profits increased by driving out Uber and Lyft.
Just as a poke in the eye, these are the people that decided for you. You were not smart enough to have Uber and Lyft.
Yeah.
You needed their wisdom to pick for you what you needed to ride in.
Yeah, the philosopher kings over in the government and the majority of the voters there. But anyway, let's get to our guest. Thanks for being patient while we rant and while we came to that break. But we have Eric from Texas on the line. Eric, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Eric, thanks for calling into the Crypto Show. What do you have for us tonight?
Not much. Page is considerably growing. I've had to put my phone not even on silent, but take the vibrate option off so my phone doesn't drain battery every hour. So, I mean, it's constantly always on the charger now. But, I mean, unlike everybody else, they can unfollow something, but I have to see everything that comes in on that page. So my phone usually just has, I can't sometimes tell if I'm even on a regular timeline on Facebook or not, or on the page. I mean, everything just kind of meshing into one thing now.
And Eric is for those that don't know, Eric is the creator of this Facebook page, actually.
What a coincidence.
Yes.
Yeah, Eric, that's so awesome. Seriously, the city of Austin owes you a big pat on the back, a big handshake, whatever it is you want, because you've done a huge service for the city of Austin. I know I tried to turn that into.
I know you were going for the reach around, but I know
I decided against it. But Eric, what a smashing success! That's so incredible. 12,000 likes or subscribers we reached during the last Crypto Show when we had some of your drivers on. But now over 18,000. That's amazing. And we had like 3 or 4 callers last episode, including 3 drivers sitting in with us in studio, all of whom attested to the great success already in this limited amount of time that Arcade City Austin has had for drivers and riders alike, including women who were riders who felt totally safe, who had formed friendships already with many of the drivers. And it's just turned into a big community, not to mention a ride-sharing network.
And now 3 of the local news stations have ran ads, it ran stories, about Arcade City. And I think one of them was negative. And the one that was negative spiked the most callers. Eric, what was it? Didn't you say it was like 50 per minute that were coming in during the one negative ad, the negative story that came out?
Yeah, I saw the ad. It was somebody posted it up on the page, and of course, I'm learning the Austin area just as everybody else is, and it seems everybody is like anti-media down there in Austin as well. So as fast as I can do, I try to grab the media person and get them off the page as soon as possible to discuss what's going on. But I mean, the one that they ran though, they actually emailed me, but I hadn't gotten back to them in time. So basically, they just ran whatever they felt they were going to run. And it almost seemed like they were trying to do like a media sting thing for the city or something. I don't know. It's the way it looked to me on the video. But, I mean, not only did people not get turned off to the Arcade City thing, but our requests spiked. We were probably doing between 10 and 20 a minute. Now we hit up over probably, I'd say 50 to 100 people a minute that were just requesting. And this was when I had to turn my phone vibrate option off as well because it was just draining my battery throughout the day. But we went from, I think, 12,000 to probably 16,000 yesterday, which was, the day after you all did your show where it hit 12. And then since 16,000, I think we're just over 18,000 now today. So, I mean, it's just really gotten pretty crazy. I think Forbes also did an article on us as well yesterday. So, my sleep schedule's all ruined and everything, but, I'm managing through it. So I have to get on when I get on and figure out what's going on throughout the day. But, 18,000 people, it's a lot of people to try and read through everything.
No kidding. I mean, but y'all are managing considering the high volume of people who have decided to join the Facebook page. And we're coming to break for our final segment. But incredibly, you got Forbes because that's national news attention, and you guys deserve it for sure. Well, we're talking with Eric, founder of Arcade City Austin. We'll be right back.
Easy.
All right, guys, welcome back to the final segment of the Crypto Show. We are talking with Eric, the founder of Arcade City Austin, which now has over 18,000 followers, which is 50% more than a few days ago on the last episode of the Crypto Show when we reached 12,000 during the show live. And we had on 3 writers, Mike, Omar, and Solomon.
3 drivers.
I'm sorry, drivers. Thank you, drivers. Riders call in as
Riders
well.
called in.
But speaking of whom, Solomon, one of the drivers, is back in studio with us.
What's up, guys?
Solomon, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again, man.
No problem.
Excellent. Well, we were talking with Eric about just the smashing success of Arcade City Austin. And Eric, you mentioned something off air about some award. Go into that real quick.
Yeah, our founder and CEO, Christopher David, actually went and presented in Berlin, and Arcade City took the first prize in the Blockchain Award. And they also had a community award as well, and he ended up donating that to the second place winner. So it's a really big thing. I mean, there are over in Germany, we've had people in Paris that have been looking in on us as well, and they're really following what's going on over here.
Wow. And do you happen to know, do they have ride sharing in Europe? Is it big over there? Do y'all know?
Yes, it is. We actually, a lot of people don't know is we actually started Arcade City back in around New Year's time when it was just an experiment at first. And as far as Austin, we actually started Austin around Valentine's Day, but, Uber and Lyft are there, so it wasn't really heard of. We actually have a few drivers, probably about 10 of them sprinkled in there. They actually have the original app that we had launched back in February. But as you know, we pulled it down after receiving feedback and everything to tweak it and everything. So the new one's coming out, but we, Austin as well as Houston, and a lot of other places, we've already been launched there. It just hasn't been heard of until, when Uber and Lyft starts to leave, then everybody's like, oh, where did this come from? But we were already there to begin with. It just wasn't being promoted as much as it is now.
Oh, I've known about it since January. I've known about this since January, actually. So I've been following it all along.
Yeah. And now the general public's picking it up now. I guess it just needs a little push, to get the name out there. But, we're in, 29 states, over 52 cities, and 4 countries now. So, a lot of people didn't even know that. I thought it was just something that we threw together on a Facebook page like it's Craigslist, and that's the way it was going to be done completely. But the whole thing is this was just a contingency plan. We weren't even planning on this at all. We went to the Collision Conference in New Orleans in the end of April. That's the big tech expo that we all startup companies go to. And we had a plan. We were going to launch an Uber's backyard over there in San Francisco. We're going to start this in probably the first or second week of June, just a full straight-out launch on that. And then everything happened in Austin, and we just basically overnight just switched our focus over completely. And they told me, Chris told me, he goes, I need you to try and do what you did in Midland. And the only thing I can think of is like, well, let's start by putting the page up and, at least get the word out there. Big picture-wise for us, it's getting the name out there so when the app comes, we can just get everybody pushed towards the app. Like, hey, here's the app now. Go ahead and get it. And we'll use the page more for like a forum where people can leave comments and experiences and success stories and stuff. And,
I don't know if you've already got the app planned or whatever, but you should probably have a social platform on the app as well and let it actually operate in the same manner. It's this
as
Facebook
far as
page.
like feedback and stuff. Yeah.
No, I mean literally like the same as the Facebook page. Just have like a social platform built into the app where people could actually operate it in the same way they are now on the Facebook page, where it's more social
like little,
instead of just like
little chat room.
You push a button and some guy shows up.
Right. No, definitely it's more social. And I think that's what everyone loves about it. I get messages from people all day that, they like the fact that it's not so impersonal.
Yeah. No, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, whatever ways you can sort of make the app like the Facebook page are great, but at the very least, if the app is going to be, say, more a traditional style ride sharing app, definitely keep the Facebook page not just for fans, but for the forum, for the feedback, for the social interaction. And what's cool is I've noticed, one, you have troubleshooting on the Facebook page. Like some guy asked, I don't necessarily need to see all these rides all the time. How can I make that tailor that for my own needs? And then you have someone offering asking, does anyone have a large enough vehicle to transport 14 people? That's the beauty of Arcade City over Uber and Lyft, and the beauty of the Facebook page over even potentially Arcade City's own app, depending on how many features they then add to it, is people can schedule rides. People can get team up with a personal driver who they use repeatedly. There's a lot of options that weren't necessarily available with Uber and Lyft.
Like
they're now available.
You have
with
the ability, if you're a female, you could ask for a female driver.
There's actually like all female pods that have or groups that developed for that reason. And scheduling, I already have I have rides scheduled for tomorrow going out to the Florence and the Machine.
Oh yeah, the concert. Yeah, cool.
I mean, they scheduled 2 days ago. I have someone scheduled for this weekend for a wedding. So I mean, it's one of those things where we're pushing it. I mean, I'm pushing myself for I like scheduling in advance so we can make sure they're taken care of. So
right, and that's
another thing. This is a great display of anarchy, and people get to see that anarchy is not actually maybe a bad thing. In the absence of what the government took away from everyone, anarchy stepped up and gave us this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, even in the statist, environment that we have, most of our interactions are voluntary. That's what anarchy is simply voluntary interactions. And look at the beauty and order that it produces. That's simply people being incentivized to cooperate together because they see the advantage in voluntary, peaceful cooperation.
What does anarchy mean again?
Without rulers.
Oh, okay.
And look, Solomon, while he has the name of a ruler, he's not my king. I mean, he's got the dignity of a king. Don't get me wrong. Like, you see him in person, it's like, wow, he glows or something. But he's not my ruler, and that's the cool thing. But he is a cool guy who can be a friend and a driver for me, and that's what's awesome about Arcade City. People coming together voluntarily and helping each other out. And again, that's the advantage this page had even before Uber and Lyft left, is that you could do things that you couldn't with Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft were kind of last minute. Whoever is closest picks us up, and then we go somewhere. And it's brilliant on its own. And I'm sure that the Arcade City app will be, have similar features once it comes out. But the brilliance of the Facebook page is you foster relationships, you create, you connect with a regular long-term driver, kind of like in Acapulco. Remember what's her name?
Angel
and her husband had that regular driver that they paid.
Yeah.
And you can prepare for specific events in the future. There's so much advantage to Arcade City, even over to the traditional Uber and Lyft, even without the app part of it.
I had a funny story. We had a request from one of the regulars. They asked me if I could take a brisket from downtown over to Coda for one of the bands. I mean, it wasn't even, a passenger. They needed a brisket taken over there. So I was at work. So I got one person that I work closely with, Jeff.
Did the brisket tip?
Oh, man. I tell you what, he got there. The band was so happy to have it. But I mean, just as simple as that. I mean, I called one person, he hit over there and got it and taken care of. So it's not just like just getting somebody from point A, point B, getting somebody home from the bar. It's getting people to work. It's getting people what they need, anything they need. It's really just, like you said, a community.
Yeah, and it's getting beyond just the simple rider-driver relationship or service. It's adding on other services that can be built on top of that, and that's the beauty of it, And unfortunately, the drawback with the brisket service, for instance, though, is that if you got me to drive it there, it would probably not arrive because I probably would have eaten it by then. But that's just me. That's not the rest of. That's not the
only problem I see with the Arcade City is the regulations are just outrageous.
Oh, wait, that's not true.
Oh,
but it still works beautifully and flawlessly.
You mean it can work without regulations?
I know, amazing, right? The market can regulate itself, or that is to say, riders and drivers regulate each other. It's a brilliant thing.
Stupid capitalism.
Am I right? And we have 2.5 minutes left. We brought up pods. I know. Do we want to talk about that any further, or is that something to get into? Or
if Eric wants to, we'll talk about it.
Eric, what do you think? Or
it's a little bit delicate subject right now and stuff. I mean, with the rate that it's growing, people are trying to police themselves, trying to set up a system where making it for riders. And basically, here's where I am. I need to go now, or I need to go in hours, or I need to ride for this date. But we got to take a look on the rider side.
Eric, you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Is there anything you can do to adjust your phone or anything? Sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh, it's much better. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, repeat what you were saying.
What we're doing, we've been growing a number of drivers as well, and the responses to a rider needing a crest is, most of the time, it's overwhelming sometimes, so we're trying to figure out a better way, because we've had some instances where the wait times for the riders were kind of long, where a driver would tell them they're a couple minutes out, and they end up being actually half an hour out. So they're trying to just get the name in their hair, get me first. So I've tried to narrow it down. So if you're more than 10 minutes out or whatever, there's probably somebody closer to that person needing a ride. So basically, instead of trying to just take rides from each other, they pass them out. Everybody's going to need a ride. It's not something that everybody should have to fight over. So...
Well, this is part of the growing pains, I think, and this is part of the discovery process of what works. And if something doesn't work, you can fine-tune it or discard it and replace it with something else. So
I had a great experience yesterday. I was down the street from a rider, and one of my other drivers responded. I responded to her, and they responded right after me. And I said, go ahead and take it, because you're a little closer. And then he responded back, no, it's okay. You answer first. I mean, it can work. It's just finding people that want to work in that way.
And we'll figure it out as it happens. Thanks, Eric and Solomon. We'll see you guys next time.